Alright, I'm going to be discussing how to do a quick bulk import into Task Scheduler here. From the outset, let me say that I'm not a computer person, so I'm going to explain this as best I understand it. Um, so what Task Scheduler is it's a software that comes with your computer, and it allows you to schedule certain codes to be run on a schedule so that you don't have to sit down at the computer and click run on the code. So what I use this for is to download stock information, stock data. I run it every hour and every day to get certain data. And you can open this up by coming down here to the search bar and typing in Task Scheduler, and that'll open up this UI interface. And you can put everything you want right in here into this UI. It's pretty simple. You would come over here to the right and click New Folder, and you could create a new folder here, and then inside of one of these blank folders, you just create a new task by hitting Create Task. You can also import and export by clicking on Import Task right over here, and then Export right down here. The issue with this is that you're only able to import and export and create one task at a time. Okay, and so if you have something like this where I've got lots of tasks, this can be very tedious to do. So you can also do this inside of Command Prompt, and I'm going to show a way to set it up to do it, to create, however many you want, 100 if you want, all with one click of the mouse. So my goal here is I'm going to put all this into earnings date downloads. And so when we come to create our new folders, we want to name it something, and then if we have any spaces, we want to use an underscore. And that's just going to make it easier when we go to code. And so I'm going to be putting everything in earnings dates download here. And I'm also going to be coding this in Visual Studio Code. So I'd encourage you to go ahead and download Visual Studio Code if you don't have that downloaded. I'm going to show you, though, how you can run this if you don't have that downloaded. So we would use Command Prompt. So we come down here to the search bar, type in Command Prompt. We're always going to be running this stuff as administrator. That's really important, because if you don't run it as administrator, you're going to get errors, and you're not going to know why. So Command Prompt, run as administrator, and you can see that it automatically opens us up here at the C drive Windows System 32. And that's because that's where these file folders lie. So if we open up a file folder here, come into C drive, Windows, and System 32, we'll come down to a folder called Tasks, and you'll see a bunch of folders and commands that are familiar. Now, I just say this for informational purposes. You do not want to make any direct changes into this folder, because it's not going to process. If we create a new folder or try to create a new task or delete a task, it's not going to update through doing this directly. But this is just to say that this is where this all this stuff is stored. So from here, we would enter the code. Like I said, I'm going to do it in Visual Studio Code. I recommend you go ahead and download that. It's just a real quick and simple download on, if you Google Visual Studio Code, you'll be able to get it. And then once we get that, we're going to want to, again, run this as an administrator. So I've got it defaulted to run as administrator. I think if you right-click in this, yes. If you Google it or type it in down there and right-click, you can click Run as Administrator. So once we're in Visual Studio Code, first thing we're going to do is we're going to come down to the Extension tab here. We're going to type in Batch Runner. You can see I've got that right there. We're going to find this one right here. Looks like it was made by Nils Soderman, and it works well. So you would install this, and then once you've installed it, you would close out of Visual Studio Code and then reopen it. Again, run as administrator. A box will pop up asking you if you want to run it as administrator. You'll say yes. So now we can come up here to Terminal. We can click New Terminal. And now we can enter in some commands. This is the same as the command prompt. So I'm going to zoom in here so we can get a better look at this. All right, so the first command that we can do is type in SCH tasks space // ? You can see what pops up here is this parameter list, and we're able to talks about creating and deleting scheduled tasks. So this is the task scheduler inside of the computer, right? It doesn't have a fancy user interface, but this is also doing the same thing. And so we have down here, we want to create a scheduled task, and so this is what it wants us to enter. So if we enter sch tasks /create /? We get another set of information here, and you can see all of these they're like little parameters for the line of code that we're going to use to create the task. Let me just come over here to a Word document, and I'll show you the ones we're going to use. So feel free to explore and learn about all those that are there, but I'm just going to show you what I'm using and what's working for me here. And these are the ones we're going to use. /tn, this is going to allow us to name the task and place it within whichever file we want to place it in. XML is the actual task that we're going to be importing, and I'll show you next how to get that XML file created. RU is going to be the computer name, so you can see right here, this is the administrator. AYMAG is the name of that, and then the password for that administrator privilege you're going to enter as RP. So to create that XML file, what we're going to do is we're going to come over here to the task scheduler and just create one task, and then we're going to export it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on Create Task here, and you can see here we can name it. So I'm going to name it Testing, and turn this to Windows 10. I'll run with the highest privileges. I'll run whether I'm logged on or not. Triggers, so this is when it actually will run. So we have one time, daily, weekly, monthly, and this is when it begins. So if we wanted to run it weekly, we would click weekly. We would choose, let's say we want to run it every Sunday, and it will begin on 12/9, which is a Friday, but that doesn't mean it's actually going to run on a Friday. It just means that it starts abiding by these rules on Friday. So even though it says 12/9, the first time it's going to run is going to be 12/11 at December the 11th at 5/11/59. So then we have other stuff down here. We could say stop task if it runs. There's also another box that does this. We'll click on this one right here. So some other things if you desire down there. That's on a schedule. And we also have some other stuff here at startup. The action, this is going to be what you want to have happen. So in this case, I want to run a Python script. And so I have to tell it, come in here to new, I have to tell it that I want it to run the Python executable, and then where is that Python file located. You can do a bunch of different stuff in here. When I was playing with it, I was first trying to learn this, I figured out you can open up like an internet browser. You can open up a Word document, you can open up Excel. So there's tons of things you can do with it. You can play around and figure that out. But for now, we're just going to show, again, how to do this import. So if you're wanting to run a Python script, you'll find the place where that Python file is located. And for me, that's located under C drive, users, my computer, then app data right here. You can see that's a hidden folder. So if you don't see app data, I would Google how to turn on hidden folders. I think I also have a video on that, so you can check. I'm not sure. And then I've got it stored in local. You can see you have to dig through the computer here to get to this. Programs, Python 3.10. Of course, I did set it up this way. I think this is where Python recommends you place it. So we recommend placing it pretty deep in here. And so right here is the Python executable. So I'm going to open this, and you can see that puts the web address right here. And so that's what I want. So So that'll run the Python executable that's needed to run in order to run Python code. Now we need to tell it where is this Python code. So in my case, it's located on C drive, users, my computer. Got it stored on my desktop. Let's see, let me find desktop. Here we go. I've got it under trading documents, earning dates, Python code. Okay, so here are the Python codes that I want to run. So I'm going to Command C this address here, and I'll paste it right into here, and then I'll come back and figure out which file I want to run. So we'll just do AAL for right here. So, and then we'll come over here, \AAL.py, and that's the address. Now, one thing to mention, you can see I've got underscores here for the spaces, and that makes it easier when you're doing this. If you did have a space in the file folder, what you're going to have to do is where that space is, let's say I had Python code instead of underscore, where that space is, you're going to have to put 2 exclamation points and then a space in between those exclamation points. So that will allow you, that'll tell the computer, hey, there's a space here, but read this whole Python code as one file folder name. If you don't put the 2 air quotes in the space there, it's going to read this as something separate. Python is one thing and then a code is another. So that's why I recommend underscores, but that's if you do have a space there, that's how you do that. So we'll click OK, and then we'll set the rest of these conditions here. And in my particular case here, I'm showing an example, so it doesn't matter. But you'll go through here and look through these and set them as you desire. So I'm going to click OK. It'll ask me for my password. I'll enter that. And that'll create the new task there. So now to create the XML file, what we're going to do is come over here to Export, click Export. Where do we want this XML file located? I'm going to put it on my desktop. You can see it's named testing.xml. Save that. Alright, so I'm going to create a new blank folder on my computer here called example file, and I'm going to drag this XML into that one so that we can more easily see what's going on here. So I got the one XML, and now I can just create new XMLs. I'm going to create 3 here. I'll name this whatever. There'll be a difference, obviously. So let's name it testing 2, testing 3. Oops, what happened here? Let's see, rename. Okay, and that one's just testing. So if we open up this XML, you can see we've got a bunch of information here. And so this is where having Visual Studio Code can help. All right, so this will help color code things, and you can sort of see what's going on here. This is laid out in a way that you can sort of see the white stuff are the variables that we changed on that pop-up box earlier. It's just in code form. So if we want to change this around, let's talk about this right here, URI. This is important right here. So you can see here that we've got the location of where this task is located. And remember, we're putting it in this earnings date downloads folder. And then right after that is the name of the XML. So this is where you control where it's stored and the name of it. 2 parts here. We put the location beginning at Windows System 32. Okay, so remember, right here, this is Windows and then the System 32 folder inside of Windows. So using that as the starting point, what file folders do we need to go through? So we can see we go through trading task here, and so that's right there, / trading tasks, / earning dates download. If I wanted this to just be in trading tasks, I would erase this part right here and just have it like that, right? And if I wanted to add one, I would just do / and add the new folder there. So that's that, and then down here is where we would name this. So when we make these copies, you're going to see that when you make the copies here, it's still named testing. So we're going to come in here and actually put what the file name actually is. Testing 2, I'm going to hit Control S to save, and then testing 3, Control S to save. You can also change this around. So I run these at different times so that it doesn't overload the computer. So I can change the time that it's run at by coming right here to start boundary. So now that we've gotten these XMLs created, let's talk about the actual code we're going to use to get this into Task Scheduler. So I'm going to come up here to New File. I'll click that. I'll put in import.cmd. Alright, so here's a look at the code structure. Now remember, we have to put this all on one line, and syntax is really important because if we get the syntax wrong, it's not going to run correctly. But I spaced this out and put them on different lines so that you can sort of see what's going on and how it's working. So you can see here we have these little parameters, and we've got the / beginning on all of these, right? So we've got create, tn, xml, ru, and rp, and then we've got what the things here. So your username, your password down here. This is going to be the file place that we want the scheduled task to go into, and then this is going to be the name of that scheduled task, and this is where we can find the XML file, okay, and then your username, your password. So nothing on create. So when we go to put this all into one and run it, we're going to, again, put this on the same line, one space in between each of these. And so I'm going to go back down here and move these back one space. Okay, and then put them back on the one line here, and then make sure that we've gotten these spaced out appropriately. Looks good, and then I'll enter my username and password. And now to find your username and your password, again, when we go to create that initial task, we're going to, at the end, we have to enter a password. This is going to be the administrator username and password. And so we can find the username right here, and then our password will be whatever we have set up for the password to be for our administrator account. Okay, and so now when we run this, and we go right up here and hit this little run button with our password in there, you'll see something that says success. The scheduled task has been successfully created. And so that means that it's succeeded. If you get anything else, it hasn't. If you don't get anything, that means it probably hasn't. You can check though by coming to the task scheduler, coming into the folder, and hitting the refresh button. And if it's there, it will be there. And I already deleted it out, but it'll have a thing right here. All right, so now we need to talk about how to get this to do a lot of different ones all at once. So you can see here we've got the same line command to create one task, with the exception of this right here. So in my situation, I have a bunch of different XMLs here, and these are all the ones that we want to import. And the only difference is I have a little variation at the beginning, which is a stock ticker symbol. So what I need this to do is I need to give it a list of symbols and have it loop through the lists in these symbols and run this code every single time with that slight variation at the beginning. And so to do this, for loop here, syntax is very sensitive, so I'd recommend doing %%t. We need 2% to 2% signs if we're running this as a command file inside of Visual Studio Code. If we do it directly into the command prompt, then we only need 1%. Okay, we're going to need 2% and then just one single letter here in our name of the variable that stores our tickers. We'll talk about this up here in a minute. Do the command, and then you can see here, because these symbols are right here in the beginning, I've got %%t. So what this is going to do is it's going to come up here and look at the text file and the first time it's going to get the first symbol from the text file, so this is AAL. Second time it runs through, it's going to do the second one in the text file, and so on. So I just created a text file up here, and you can enter your title variations into the text file. Now, make sure to note that this is very sensitive as well, so you must do it exactly like this. If you have any spaces here, that's not going to work. If you do it on different lines, that's not going to work. Right? Any spaces there, not going to work. Has to be exactly like this, going all the way on one line. And then over here, what we've done is we said set /P, and then we just named the ticker. So I named ticker list equals this sign right here. What is this? Greater than, less than, less than sign, and then the location of that text file. Again, you can see I've got a space right here in the name of the text file, so I had to use these double air quotes and then a space in the middle. And then right down here, echo ticker list. Echo basically means print, and then we've got two parentheses on either side. So this is indicating that we want it to print what is in that ticker list variable up here. So this sets the variable, this prints that variable. And now that we've gotten the items from this text file into this variable, then it uses it down here when looping through. If you're having any problems, I've left some notes right up here as far as the syntax is concerned. You can pause the video and read those. When doing this, you're probably going to run into one or twice where you go to run it and you think everything's fine and it's not going to work. So you just got to really be sensitive with how the syntax looks, and then also don't discount just closing out of Visual Studio Code and reopening it again fresh and seeing if that will make it work. All right, so I've got the list here, and I'm going to take this one step further and show you what I did with Python. And you may not have Python on your computer. If not, just creating the text file is fine. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to, as I add different ones in here, I want to have just a way to just run a code, and it will look through all of these items here and just return me all the values, all the tickers based on the files that are in there. So I don't have to keep up a list of what tickers are actually in this file. I just run this and it'll tell me what tickers are in here. It'll move it to this list, and then it'll import it all at once. And so this is the Python code that I've written. So import OS, import pandas as PD. We're beginning at the number 4 because this up here is 0, 1, 2, 3. I've got the first 4 here are non-XML things. So it starts on line 5. In Python terms, that's 4 because Python begins on 0. So we've got begin there. Then we said list equals os.listdir in parentheses. What this does is this returns the name of all the files in the file folder here. And then we've set brackets begin. So that's that variable up there. So it begins right here on AAL and returns all of the names of the files starting from AAL down. Move it into a pandas data frame. We delimiter it out, so we split out everything based on the underscore. So that gives us a first column of just symbols. And then we say for the ticker list, we want just this symbol column, df0, that's what that represents, and then move it to a list. Print it here, and then right down here we move it to a text file. So let's go ahead and give this a run, sort of show you what this looks like. All right, so I've cleared out this list here, so it's got nothing on it. And then I'll come up here and I'll run this. Now we'll come over here, and what you'll notice is that it has brackets around it, and it's also got those air quotes on either side. So how we'll fix that? So we'll just click in here and click Control H to find and replace. You can also do it by one of these drop downs over here. Here we go, Edit, Replace, or Control H. And I'm going to remove it by putting what I want to remove there and then not putting anything in the replace. So I'll hit that and it removes that. Hit the other one, removes that, and then the little apostrophe, highlight that and remove that. And then also do the space, because you can see there's a space right there, so we're going to remove that. Alright, so that's real simple, a little simple thing we have to do. Now I'm going to hit Control S, come over here, File or Save, and I'll close out of that. And so now this is ready to go, and so when we run this, it should import all of these as one. And so I don't want to do all these just to, for example purposes, so I'm going to delete most of these. We'll just run these 7 here. Let's come over here, we'll come into this file here and make sure this is empty, and it is. Alright, so I'll run this. And you can see what's happened here is, so I've had this print the ticker list first and then pause in order to, so that I can observe what's on the list and make sure that that's what I want. And then you have to press a key to continue to the actual thing. So you can see it's still doing all of these tickers. So I'm going to close out of this and come up here, and I got to save this. Control S, close out of that. And I'll run this again. You can see we've got those 7 tickers there, so that looks good. So I'll hit any key to continue. And now you can see it just ran through all of those. Success, 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 success. Bunch of successes we had there, so that's good. Let's come over here, refresh. You can see I just imported all 7 of those.